Two of the biggest shonen releases hit theaters in 2025, but only one of them was written like a movie. Chainsaw Man the movie Reze Arc plays as a single 1 hour and 40-minute story designed for the big screen. It's not a series of episodes sewn together. It's a cohesive narrative. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle is absolutely worth experiencing in theaters. But beneath the beauty and emotion, the seams between episodes are visible, which makes for a completely different experience. While Demon Slayer initiated this trend and still dominates the box office, Reze Arc might be the first arc-to-theater adaptation that feels cinematic, and this format is just as pivotal as the story, which may redefine how anime is made for the big screen. I watched Reze Arc on opening night, and it stayed with me long after the credits. It wasn't merely due to the story, animation, or cinematography, but rather because it felt true to the format. It was built for theaters. The pacing, the emotional build, the way the scenes hand off to each other, all of that was crafted for a feature, not television. If you've been following the rise of theatrical arc releases, you know that Demon Slayer kickstarted this with Mugen Train, and built on the momentum with Infinity Castle. I have a full video on how and why this model became so successful, which you should definitely check out after this one. With both films out now worldwide, the picture is clear. Reze Arc didn't just continue this trend, it evolves it. It pushes it forward. And whether you're a fan of Chainsaw Man or not, this changes how we all experience anime in theaters. But before we dive into this any further, if you enjoy exploring anime through a cinematic lens, then be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. That way, you don't miss out on any upcoming videos from me. Now, let's get back into what makes this feel like absolute cinema. Let's zoom out. A few years ago, studios realized something powerful. If a series is already beloved on TV, taking a canon arc to theaters turns weekly hype into a global event. Demon Slayer demonstrated this with Mugen Train, and pushed it forward with its first installment in the Infinity Castle trilogy. At this point, arc to theater is the playbook, and the appeal makes sense. Fans get marquee moments with better sound, a bigger canvas for animation, and a packed room reacting together in real time. Studios benefit from box office heat and worldwide marketing, which is then followed by a second life on TV and streaming. On paper, everyone wins. There's also a very real business incentive behind this model. Compilation and preview-style releases reuse material that already exists for television, so the theatrical release is far cheaper to produce than an original film. Most of the animation, voice work, and music are already paid for. You're essentially re-editing, polishing, and marketing the content for a new window. Mugen Train was later recut into a 7-episode TV arc, and releases like To the Swordsmith Village and To the Hashira Training paired a season finale with the next season's premiere in theaters, before airing those episodes on TV. Distributors have even referred to this approach as the winning formula, because it fuels hype around 3 major formats of media: theatrical, streaming, and broadcast. To clarify, none of this is a bad thing. It's simply a different creative mandate than creating a film from the ground up. But here's the trade-off. When an arc is built to be recut into 23-minute episodes, you can feel it. The pacing slips into a stop-start rhythm. Emotional peaks land like episode finales. Scenes reset, instead of flowing forward. It's incredible, high-quality television projected on a large screen, which can feel like binge-watching rather than watching a movie. That brings us to Chainsaw Man the movie Reze Arc. It joins the same trend, but it treats the theater as the destination, and not an indulgent stop along the road to broadcast television. What does such a format do to us as viewers? What makes Reze Arc play like a movie on a larger canvas? And why does that difference matter once the lights go down? One of the biggest reasons Reze Arc feels like a film is that it commits to one confined arc. This isn't a handful of subplots fighting for attention. The movie stays anchored to Denji and Reze. Their chemistry, the walls slowly coming down, and the emotional consequences that follow. The action serves that relationship, especially as it unravels, because we spend time in the quiet, human moments, such as the dates, the awkwardness, and the longing. The violence does not feel like a detour. It feels like the story is evolving towards its climax. It's also paced like a feature and not a TV arc. Over an hour and 40 minutes, scenes flow without that episode ending feeling you get when something is designed to be sliced into 23-minute chunks. Instead of cliffhangers and resets, you feel that build-up, release, and aftermath. It's the natural rhythm of a movie meant for one sitting. Transitions carry emotion, not just plot, and the film blends the tone with the momentum. The mix of 2D with selective 3D, paired with an energetic score, glues scenes into one cohesive experience. A tender moment can slowly sour into dread without a hard reset, and one beat bridges to the next to preserve the emotional thread. Under the fireworks, Reze kisses Denji, then bites his tongue off. On television, that moment would be a cliffhanger. But the film continues to run without resetting. So all at once, the kiss leads to a rupture, which becomes a chase, which devolves into a fight. The tone shifts from intimacy to dread, and then to a full impact. You feel the betrayal expanding in real time. That is feature pacing. The emotion is uninterrupted and keeps tightening in cinematic fashion. Visual cohesion also reinforces its cinematic identity. The motif of eyes notably appears throughout the film, not just for style, but as an emotional and thematic thread. To the opening song, Iris Out, to shots that frame characters through reflections, windows, and direct gazes, the film keeps asking who is watching whom, and who truly sees whom. It juxtaposes intimacy and surveillance in an intentional visual language that we don't typically associate with anime on television. The same can be said for other elements as well. The action is staged as set pieces, not episodes. Even the biggest fight feels designed with theatrical flow in mind. Clear geography, escalating stakes, and payoff. Similarly, the sound design and score do not simply hype up moments or signal a pretend episode break. They shape how we experience Denji's world and the tension of the arc. The bottom line is, Reze Arc feels like cinema because the structure, pacing, animation, and sound all serve as a single emotional through line. It is not TV in a theater. It is a film that happens to be canon. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle is jaw-dropping. The animation, the music, the scale, and the ambition all earn the big screen. But when we talk about format and structure, you can feel a television cadence under that spectacle, and that changes how the movie plays in a theater. It starts with rhythm. The story climbs to an emotional or action peak, resets to reposition characters, then climbs again. Those peaks feel like the end of an episode. The resets feel like the beginning of the next one. It's not a flaw in craft, but a choice in structure, and it's clearly TV logic presented at feature length. Parallel tracks amplify that feeling. The arc must serve multiple characters and multiple fights at the same time. In weekly television, that is a strength because different episodes can spotlight different points of view. In a single sitting, though, it creates a stop-start momentum. You invest in one confrontation, the scene ends with a tiny emotional punctuation, and before that energy can resolve, the film jumps to another thread. If you were to rewatch it, you would notice how many scenes end with a clean sense of closure, almost like an episode conclusion, instead of flowing directly into the next moment. A run of those endings can feel like a binge session. You can admire the craft, but it's a little choppy when the drama contains so much recoil time. Flashbacks add to the television feeling. They're a part of Demon Slayer's DNA. They provide context, deepen backstories, create space to reflect, especially in a weekly television format. In a film, when those beats arrive in close succession without being reshaped for a feature rhythm, the pacing is disrupted. Many critics, including the infamous one from IGN, and fans, called out how flashback-heavy the experience felt. It has less to do with the content of those memories, so much as the frequency and placement. Pausing for an extended backstory of several characters at several times interrupts the forward arc of a single narrative. This is not to say Infinity Castle fails to work in a theater, because, it totally works. The highs land, the crowd energy is real, and the artistry is undeniable. The point is that its construction prioritizes an episodic cadence. That is why, even at its most beautiful, the experience can feel like prestige, high-budget television on a very large canvas. A cinematically focused reformatting might have pushed Infinity Castle to the absolute top of 2025 for most all anime fans. Many of the same emotional beats would have remained, but the arrangement could have been more seamless. This matters because structure shapes how narrative tension accumulates in your body. A movie form lets tension stack and resolve all in one long arc. An episodic form invites you to reset. They create different theatrical experiences. Both can be satisfying, but the difference is worth evaluating. If Infinity Castle plays like TV compilations on a giant screen, but Reze Arc commits to a single feature-length arc, what does that shift signal for the industry and for us as the audience? Reze Arc wasn't exciting merely because it was a great movie. It feels like a turning point. It shows what happens when a canon arc is created for theaters first, and how that shifts the experience for all of us. As viewers, you immediately feel the difference. When a story is built for a film, everything moves with one intention. Tension does not reset. Set pieces don't interrupt. Quiet moments matter because they're leading somewhere. You walk out feeling like you watched a full movie, not a marathon. That's the kind of movie people talk about months later, not just on opening night. It also raises the bar for studios. The arc and theater model works financially. Demon Slayer proved that. And Reze Arc shows a theatrical adaptation can do more than just provide material to be repackaged later. It can stand on its own, as a theatrical title, not just a hype event to hold fans over by featuring a rough draft for TV. This fosters audience trust, but creatively, it also opens the doors. When directors can shape canon for big screen, they can also think of acts instead of episodes. They can move or compress flashbacks, let scenes breathe, carry emotion across transitions, build motifs, and craft a visual language with meaning. That is cinema, and we feel the difference. This is why Reze Arc is the next phase, where the theater is treated as the destination and not as a detour. If this becomes the standard, arc-to-theater releases can evolve into something more. Canon stories can be designed for the big screen. So, here's the real question. If this is where the format can go, what do we want as fans? Do we want big screen anime that feels like a stitched together binge, or do we want stories crafted as films from the ground up? When Reze Arc ended and the credits rolled, what stuck with me wasn't just the spectacle or the heartbreak. It was the feeling that I had experienced a story that was allowed to breathe. One heartbeat, one film, on the big screen. That difference, you feel the intention. You carry the emotion out of the theater, not just because it was louder, but because it moved as one continuous pulse instead of scattered beats. If this is the direction arc-to-theater releases are headed, we're entering a new era for anime films. A better question than, will it look good on a big screen, is will it feel like a film when the lights go down? Reze Arc proves canon can be cinematic, cohesive, and complete, without losing what fans love. When you sit down for an anime movie, What do you want that heartbeat to feel like? A rush of moments, or one continuous breath? If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and now I want to hear from you. Should anime studios keep releasing arc films as stitched together episodes, or should we expect them to be crafted as films from the start? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want a full backstory on how we got here, you should watch my breakdown on the rise of anime theatrical releases next. And if you enjoy exploring anime through a cinematic lens, be sure to like the video, tap the bell, and subscribe to the channel. I will see you all next time. Bye!